There are multiple ways to throw each pitch type, but there's likely one or two that are a little bit easier for you to get the movement that you're looking for. Today I'm going to talk about sinker specifically and give you two grip options that could work. One is going to be geared towards guys that tend to cut the ball and have lower spin efficiency, think less than 85%, and then one that is more beneficial for guys that have higher spin efficiency, 85% or higher. Let's begin. The first grip is a traditional two-seam fastball. So you're just going to have your fingers going along the seam like this, and you can put the thumb wherever it's comfortable for now. As you get going and throw this pitch, you might want to tinker with that if it's not getting the movement that you want. When you throw this pitch, you want the bare part of the ball, so think where this Major League logo is, to be slightly facing you as it's spinning away from you. That's basically telling us how much cut you're getting on the ball. So the more that dot is facing you and tilted, the lower the efficiency. There is a fine line of getting too much. So if it starts facing you too much, then it's going to start turning into a gyro slider when you throw this pitch. So you just want it to be slightly facing you and spinning cleanly away from you like so. The lower that tilt is, the more depth you're going to get. But even at a 130 tilt if you're right-handed or at a 1030 tilt if you're left-handed, it's still going to get the perfect blend of sink and depth if those seams are oriented correctly and that bare part of the ball is facing you. I'm sure you've seen I have dot balls that I make for this pitch. I'll make sure to attach that in a link below so you can look at the dots on how to make that, because that can provide a really good visual of what that dot should be looking like as you're throwing it to make sure that it's oriented correctly. This grip is typically going to be best for guys that have a spin efficiency of 85% or lower. You can still throw it with a higher spin efficiency, but you're less likely going to get the seam effects that are going to push the ball down to create more depth. Essentially, it's going to move more so in the direction of the tilt out of the hand. So it's going to lead to more of a runner and really be dependent on your arm slot or just that initial tilt out of the hand of what the depth is going to look like. So in order to get closer to that 0 vertical break number, you would essentially have to have a 3 o'clock tilt out of the hand or a 9 o'clock tilt. Versus the guys that have a little bit more cut on this pitch and have a lower spin efficiency, they can have a release tilt of 1030 or 130 and still start to get closer to that 3 o'clock movement tilt because of the way the seams interact with the air. Grip number 2 is a one-seam sinker. So instead of going along the two seams like this, you'll now go at an angle so that when you throw this pitch, this seam here where my middle finger is going to rotate like so. When you're throwing this, it'll be very visible that you're doing it correctly because you'll be able to see a red line tightly rotating away from you. A couple iterations that you can do with this is instead of being on the seam like this with your middle finger, some guys will split the seam like this, or they'll have their fingers together further down the ball. Really find what works for you. For me, I like feeling the seam, so I have my middle finger directly on top of it like this, and when I throw it, I really try to feel it rip through that middle finger and off the seam. When I do it right, I can literally feel it rolling off of the seam rather than just kind of feeling like I'm on bare part of the ball. For me, I just get inconsistent rotation when I have that type of grip. Something to be aware of with this is guys will think that they're going at a strong angle here and they're on this one seam, but when you look at slow motion video, you actually can see that they're starting to blend more into just a regular two seam that's slightly off centered. And what ends up happening is you're not getting one seam rotation and you're not getting two seam rotation either. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, and that's when you're going to get average movement that isn't really doing what you want it to do. So err on the side of having a stronger grip and really try to feel it roll off of that middle finger to create the one seam action. This grip is going to work really well for guys that have a higher spin efficiency of 85% or higher. I've even seen it work with guys that are 95 to 100% and they're able to get really good late movement on it. So if you're a pronator or someone that struggles to supinate and create cut on the ball, this is a really good grip option for you to get depth on your sinker. A couple things I want to note is whichever grip you choose, it should feel natural coming out of your hand. If you have to manipulate the ball, you have to lower your slot or try to cut or pronate more than is normal for you, you're not going to get the movement that you want. And if you do get the movement that you want, you're doing it at the cost of altering your mechanics and probably sacrificing velocity as well. So you want to make sure that you're able to rip through this with your normal delivery and normal intent. If you have the right grip, you're going to get the movement that you want. Like I said earlier, there's a couple iterations for both of these grips, so be sure to play with the thumb placement, fingers together, fingers apart, maybe even having a little bit more pressure on one finger versus the other. There are multiple ways to throw both of these pitches, so tinker with it so you find the results that you're looking for and the one that feels the most comfortable. Like anything else, it takes time to develop a new pitch. Don't get frustrated if you don't pick it up right away. A resource that can be helpful through this process are dot balls. I'll be sure to attach a couple videos on how to make these and the placement of the dots specifically. If you have an understanding of how it should be spinning, you'll be more likely to know what adjustments you need to make in order to get the movement and the spin that you're looking for. Another resource that could be helpful for you is my pitch grip database. I have over 75 videos of grips, cues, and Edgertronic video of all pitch types. Be sure to check that out. Whenever you are ready for the next step, there are 3 ways that I can help you. The first way is through my newsletter, The Monday Mound Visit. Every week, I break down a specific pitching topic for coaches and players. Option number 2 is through remote training. Regardless of where you live in the world, I am able to give you a plan that is tailored towards you and your needs. Option number 3 is in-person training with me in Scottsdale, Arizona. I have a TrackMan and an Edgertronic camera, so we are really able to get into the weeds of pitching development.